4.0 is almost over and oh my god, everything is amazing so far. Fontaine has built upon Sumeru in such interesting ways. The writing game improved even more, world quests didn't slog, and underwater exploration is actually pretty fun. The Genshin fandom just could not shut up about it. I mean, it was trending on Tumblr for a solid week. That's never happened before. Though it was dethroned by the Trump mugshot. But that's besides the point. There was and continues to be a lot of discussion surrounding Child and his role in the story. His false imprisonment and lore/trauma dump raises some interesting questions about the Oratrice, Abyss, and Celestia. So now that I have had a bit of time to let the new information simmer, I believe I have found the possible routes the Fontaine Archon quests can take in later acts, and Tartaglia is the key to solving it. But before I begin, I would like to make a quick spoiler warning. There will be spoilers for Acts 1 and 2 of the Fontaine Archon quests, the Melusine quest line, and the Narcissenkreuz story quest. Sorry for the pronunciation. Playing the Archon quest is heavily encouraged. If you haven't played the other world quests, that's fine, I will try to catch you up. For any other quests before this, I'm going to assume you have already played them. So with that all taken care of, let's start with analyzing Child's appearances. Once we get past the sheer comedy of his debut in Fontaine, we get to the juicy parts where he explains his backstory. He mentions that Skirk took him in because he woke up it, and there are traces of it still on him. At least that's what he could make from her response. He also presumes that the giant whale he saw in his dream is the it Skirk was referring to. He mentions multiple times that he's in a bad mood because a darkness is growing inside him. All of this on top of his vision not working makes for some intriguing implications, but I'll talk about those later. For the rest of Act 1 and 2, it covers the oddity that is the Oratrice, Fontaine's advanced technological development, primordial seawater, rising sea levels, Fatui shenanigans, and the prophecy. The use of the word primordial is the most obvious connection lore people should have made. The primordial era, the primordial one. This part of Teyvat's past is shrouded in mystery, and only a select few people seem to be aware of its existence. So this makes even more connections to the Abyss, Conria, and Celestia, as if Genshin lore wasn't complicated enough. Anyways, we go through the entire shit show that is Fontaine's legal system, and learn more about the House of Hearth. Arlecchino is from Fontaine, and is allowed to use a hydronosis in order to stop the prophecy from coming true, but this is according to Linny and Lynette, who idolize her to some extent. That rhymed. So as Act 2 is approaching its climax, Child is accused of being a part of the serial disappearances, and the Oratrice judged him as guilty, even though there is no conceivable way he was involved, and Neuvillette even judged him as not guilty. And that was just weird thing number 1, because weird thing number 2 is Child choosing to transform into his foul legacy. Why the fuck would he do that? Unlike the fandom's and other characters' consensus, Child is not fucking stupid. He is an expert when it comes to the battlefield. Why would he transform into Foul Legacy in an open area? Back turned to a threat. There is no way that wasn't purposeful. No way in hell. So that all ties up into weird thing number 3. Furina had no idea why the Oratrice contradicted Neuvillette. Like, girl, you created it, allegedly. This should be the one thing you actually understand. You had one job. One job! In the Narcissenkreuz quest with Anne, we learn more about events in Fontaine post-Cataclysm. Why Why Elinus died, how the Fontaine Research Institute was founded, and the history surrounding the Primordial Sea. In the lore connected to this quest, we learn about this little thing called the World Formula. It basically theorizes that Teyvat civilizations are in a constant cycle of birth and destruction, and that one day the cycle will end, where not even sweet flowers will grow. Coincidentally, one of the members of the Ordo, people who want to prevent this future from happening, tried creating neo-humans using abyssal power, basically creating people who look like abyss lectors. This quest then ties into the Melusine questline through the death of Elinus. When he died, the metal components cut him up and in turn created the Melusine race. Mamere is the only Melusine who can communicate with him currently. Melusines can see the true nature of something. Like saying the Traveler looks like a monster who could eat the world in a single bite. Interesting. With this Melusine, we also see the visualization of the doomed future, going through the looking glass, where Canatolia saw a bright garden. But the single most important thing we learned from this quest is that Elinus is a creation of Rhine-Daughter, the mother of Valbedo and the creator of Rift Hounds. Okay, so you already know what I'm going to propose, so I'll just say it. the Abyss Order will become relevant again. You saw it in the title, you saw it in the thumbnail, you have played the game, you understand. But let me go even further. I think that the Abyss Order is behind the prophecy spreading and is going to be the driving force behind Arlecchino's actions in Fontaine, while also introducing key players into the war with the gods. This is an odd, disjointed theory, I know, but let me put on my tinfoil hat and explain the prophecy portion first. So when we're first introduced to the prophecy, we learn that the reason why Fontaine will be drowned is not fully understood. Fontainians are born with a natural level of sin, they offend Celestia somehow, nobody knows for sure. But those rumors probably do have some truth to them. As the Traveler and Navia investigate the serial disappearances case, we learn that only the people of Fontaine are able to be dissolved by primordial water. Then like a couple days after Marcel, as I Am Fossilore on Tumblr so lovingly put it, got William Aftoned, we learn my key piece of evidence for this theory. This prophecy is rumored to be the last words of the previous Hydro Archon, named most likely Agaria, so I'll just call her that for simplicity's sake. If this is the case, who the hell would have been able to spread this prophecy? Because think about it, who would have been there to actually hear her last words? We know that Greater Lord Rigadavada was there to witness her death, but we also know that after she turned Agaria into a tree, she died due to the effects of forbidden knowledge. It's implied that other Archons were at Tunigu Hollow because the entrance of Khaenri'ah is right there, but we don't know the exact timing of her death. There's a good chance she was the first to die in the Cataclysm. We also don't know if any Oceanids or other Lock folk were present. While I wouldn't be surprised if there was, lore characters tend to drop like flies, and it's confirmed most were in Fontaine. Because we do know that the effects of the Cataclysm were felt everywhere. There would have to be powerful beings protecting Fontaine. Lastly, the Peri were created after her death. Literally every candidate has been crossed off, except one. You may remember, but just in case, Greater Lord Rigadavada and Agaria were fighting the monsters of the Abyss, in the area that is directly above the entrance to Khaenri'ah. We know that at one point the Abyss sibling and Dainsleif got out of Khaenri'ah through that very door, so other citizens of Khaenri'ah could have been able to witness her death, right? The Abyss Order is fully capable of starting large-scale operations to fuck with other nations. We have seen it before in Mondstadt and Economia. The Order has been MIA for 3 nations now, but in interlude chapters we have learned more about their origins and power level. Their Dark Crystal Mystery Man was the final Archon quest before Fontaine. That means something. While the Fatui have been wreaking havoc in other nations, the Abyss Order have been biding their time, waiting for the perfect chance to make a move. What is this move exactly? It's hard to say. It depends on how we want to interpret everything going on with the prophecy and Celestia. Mentioned in multiple places throughout Fontaine, Fontaine was once home to Remuria, a place ruled by a god king who wanted to prevent the destruction of his kingdom, but inevitably failed, Celestia ultimately destroying it through flooding. Doesn't that sound familiar? It does. And it's directly compared in canon through the world formula. The Abyss Order is well aware that the Cataclysm was a sort of omen for what is to come in Teyvat, and they actively want to stop Celestia. So was revealing Agaria's last words a warning, or a necessary sacrifice for their plans? To complicate things even further, in the melusine questline it is revealed that the Abyss Order is not the only faction of abyssal monsters, and there are ways for non-Khaenri'ahns to become abysslings. Furthermore, in the same quest we learn that the melusine's father, Ainas, is a creation of Rheinelder, the same fucking woman who caused the Cataclysm and is a current member of the Hexen Circle, who Skirk is also speculated to be a member of. And the cherry on top is that when exploring in Fontaine, there's this little thing called beastly rifts. Rift hounds spawn from them, and the means of forming this rift look quite like occult imagery. After they are dead, Ainas' cells reside there, and that's only the start on Fontaine's connections to divine energies. But I have thoroughly established that there are multiple groups involved in the current events in Fontaine, so I won't go any further than that. Recall me saying that child is the key to solving all of this? Well, that statement wraps back around to another question I have. What's the Fatui's place in all of this? As we all know, the Fatui love sticking their noses into every single nation's business, whether that nation likes it or not. But they seemingly are not behind this particular scheme. At least not entirely, because we first need to look at Arlecchino's plans and Child's actions. Arlecchino is allegedly trying to save the nation of Hydro by using its gnosis. But do I really believe that? No, not fully. It has been said time and time again that she's willing to betray the Fatui, and her constellation is most likely the Hand of Glory, a symbol for traitors. But as you've probably heard, there are a lot of people who theorize that Lenny and Lynette were actually behind Cowell's death. I'm not going to explain this any further because there are already good videos explaining this theory, but long story short, there are way too many coincidences for these 3 siblings to be completely innocent. I do believe Lenny at least threw in some white lies while talking directly to the Traveler, though I'm hesitant to say that this theory could be true or not. As Ashikai mentioned in her 4.0 analysis video, this case served as a way to set the stage and show the players what justice is supposed to look like. But to play devil's advocate, Fontaine is known for his flamboyance, and said flamboyance is all for show. Maybe this is a way to tell the players that the Nation of Justice's justice system is a sham. There are people living in the sewers, infrastructure based on rusty metal scraps, and they struggle to afford food. What if Arlecchino wants to save Fontaine, preventing the prophecy only being one step of her grand plan? Just some food for thought. Regardless, Arlecchino is not entirely trustworthy. She does seem to genuinely care for the children, but her loyalty to the Fatui is shaky at best. So, what could possibly be her goals? I have a couple theories. The Fatui have famously made enemies out of multiple countries, but they are aware that to succeed they will need allies. Fontaine would be the perfect nation to owe you a favor. They're the most developed nation in Neuvillette, technology based on the lost nation they're avenging in a way. Saving Fontaine would be making some serious moves against Celestia. So that's what I think the main plan is for Fontaine. But there is the elephant in the room that's Arlecchino's inevitable betrayal. Once she defects, I think she'll use her role in Fontaine's preservation to make the House of Hearth a powerful organization all on its own. But there's also the variable of Child being falsely imprisoned, because again, there's no chance he was involved. Like, that man chugs respect women juice and he just doesn't do shit like that. It makes no sense. But if they did want the Nation of Justice to bend to their will, making them have to apologize does do the trick. They falsely imprisoned the Harbinger, a Snezhnayan diplomat, and physically harmed him. No matter what, that does not look good. Child knew that he was going to get arrested either way. Emotions got the better of him, and he may have some plans in store for the Fortress of Meropide. Fontaine's way of justice is going to backfire spectacularly, is what I'm essentially saying. Though why was he declared guilty in the first place? I don't know, and I don't have any original guesses either. There is the theory that the Oratrice sensed the remnants of it, and decided that he was guilty on principle, either explanation being magic eraser water or abyssal taint. They also point to Child losing control of his vision as evidence of some other power overriding his celestial one. While I do think that this theory is still viable, we are also missing some huge pieces of the puzzle, and this theory could easily collapse under new evidence. A big issue is that we don't really know how the Oratrice operates, and the answers would resolve this matter in an instant. The Oratrice does not seem to be all-knowing. It constantly changes opinions during a trial based on new evidence. Most likely made with a Gnosis, but that in turn raises questions about how connected the Gnosis and the device are, because the Oratrice is capable of independent thought, and knows some shit is up with Child. Remember what he says before he's convicted? He's merely a side character and he will soon disappear into the shadows? Yeah, I'm sure he believes that, but I don't. Again, Fontaine is all about deception and misdirection. There is always the possibility he's a much bigger player than we initially thought. So, in summary, we still have a lot of unanswered questions regarding the Oratrice and Arlecchino's goals, so we just have to wait to get more information. But before I close this out, I want to quickly mention chess theory. Now, for the uninitiated, chess theory is referring to the Gnosis in the chessboard we see in the Winter Nights Lazo trailer. Those speculating about chess theory are trying to figure out which chess pieces the Gnosis represent, and the symbolism of the chess game Piero is seen playing in the trailer. Now, the particular chess game we see was a very famous one called Deep Blue vs. Kasparov. The meaning behind this game in the Gnosis is heavily debated, and I recommend looking at other videos and Reddit to get a clearer picture. But a universally agreed upon fact is that each game represents a section of the story, and the speculated game that represents Fontaine, there's a draw. This can imply so many things about what is going to happen, and all of it is brimming with potential. Maybe there's a wake-up call for the Fatui. We lose a Harbinger, a weakness is exposed in Celestia, or the Abyss causes major damage. Literally anything could happen, and it's so much fun to speculate about. I'm super excited to see more of Child and Arlecchino. Childe is one of my favorite characters, and Arlecchino's character looks to be quite the multifaceted one, so I'm interested to see their interactions and roles in the story. I have always been consuming every nugget of Genshin lore I can get my hands on, so it feels really good to actually have a solid theory for this game. And really, Fontaine is the perfect nation to do this for. The problems happening in the nation of Hydro are numerous and complex, often tied to one another through years of shared history. So when you do theorize, there is a solid chance you get at least something right. It really goes to show the amount of time and dedication poured into the world building and storytelling of this game, even if it doesn't hit the mark every time. So yeah, those are all my thoughts on Fontaine so far, at least the fully fleshed out ones. There's still other predictions swimming around in my head, but weren't worth it to put in the video, so I might just put them out there. 100% we are going to break Childe out of prison. Most likely we are imprisoned ourselves and then we do the prison break. Not only does it align with the first Fontaine teaser with Alice saying Melusine's misunderstood our intentions, but also just sounds so fucking funny. I still think that there's going to be a huge Celestia lore bomb, adding an Abyss lore bomb as well, and the lack of acknowledgement of Vigaria will be addressed. Neuvillette is the Hydro Dragon Sovereign because it's more interesting that way. And I think that if there's a third Harbinger in Fontaine, it's either Sandrone or Dottore. I'm leaning towards Dottore. Most of the other Harbingers have had multiple nations of build-up to establish them as a formidable threat. So including Dottore in the Conria tech-obsessed nation just makes sense. So yeah, that's basically it. I'm excited for what's to come. I'm gonna go read Heaven Official's Blessing and neglect my Starrilla account. Have a great rest of your day. Please go check out my Tumblr, and bye!